If you're a basketball player that wants to be a better defender, you're going to want to stick around for today's tips. Becoming better on the defensive end is often the difference maker for making a team, getting more playing time, or even getting recruited. Today I'm going to cover 3 habits that you need to be developing in order to be a better defender. Let's jump in and discuss. Welcome back to Hard Smart Together. I'm Coach Dave. I'm here every week to help you become a better basketball player by teaching about the mindset, the basketball IQ, and the fundamentals that'll give you the edge to play better, to achieve your goals, and to enjoy the game even more. So today we're going to talk about 3 defensive habits that you need to be developing in order to be a better defender and make it, like I said, defense is a difference maker as far as, making that team that you want to make, getting more playing time, or even getting recruited. Coaches notice defense. And today we're going to talk about 3 habits that you need to have as a defender. 3 simple habits that you can implement and start developing that habit. Before I get into those 3 habits, I want to ask you a question. And that question is, what is the one area of your game that you want to focus on and get better at and develop this offseason? So what I'd like you to do is think about that and put a comment below. I want to see, maybe there's some trends out there and there's some content that I can bring forth. I can take a look at your comments, what specifically you want to work on, and I can make some resources available to you. So I'd love to hear from you and hear what is the one area of your game that you want to focus on and work on this off season. So make a comment below. Speaking of resources, I always like to give a free gift just for joining me as a thanks. So I do have a PDF. It's 8 intangible skills or habits that you should be working on, which will make you a better player, a better teammate, and really make you stand out on the court. You can download it at hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. Again, it's hardsmarttogether.com/intangibles. I'll put the link below. It's a simple checklist form that gives you some ideas, not on just what you should be, these skills that you should be working on, but also how you can work on them. Gives you some ideas of how to implement these intangible skills. So I make that available as a free resource for you. So these 3 habits, let's jump right into the 3 habits, 3 defensive habits that you need. And specifically today, we're going to talk about help defender habits, or off the ball. There's a ton that we could talk about on the ball as well, but for today, these are 3 habits that you can do whether you're, whatever positioning you are off the ball. You could be 1 pass away, 2 passes away. It doesn't matter where you are as far as a help defender, but we're going to refer to everybody that's off the ball as a help defender, because really you are. One of my pet peeves, maybe it is yours too, I can guarantee it's one of your coach's pet peeves, is a lot of fans, especially when you talk about man-to-man defense, think about man-to-man defense as this one-on-one matchup. You might be, a player, and after the game, your parents are taking you home and saying, that's okay, you did fine. It was your teammate's fault. You guarded your man perfectly. They never got by you, or you didn't make the mistake, it was somebody else's mistake. Well, basketball isn't a one-on-one sport. If it was, the offense would always have the advantage. Why? Well, if you're a smaller, quicker player, you're going right around the bigger, slower player. If you're the bigger, stronger player, you're backing down the smaller player. Help defenders, doesn't matter what defense your coach wants to run. It could be zone, it could be man-to-man. I know there's a lot of variations. It doesn't matter. Help defense is so important. And so we're going to refer to anybody that's not on the ball as a help defender, and that's what we're going to focus on, is 3 habits that can make you a better help defender and make you stand out to coaches. So the first one, another pet peeve of mine. I have a lot of pet peeves as a coach. But not being in a stance, okay? When you are on defense, you can't take breaks. You can't take breaks when you're off the ball. And so often, I see it at every level. I see it at the youth level, I see it at high school, I see it at college, and I even see it at the pros, right? Players take a break when they're the farther away from the ball they are. You know, maybe when you're on the ball, you're in a stance. When you're one pass away, you're in a stance. But when you're, you know, not in the play and across the court or behind the play, sometimes you come up out of that stance. You take a break. Defense isn't a time for a break. In fact, when you're farther away from the ball, that's when you need to be aware and more active. And being prepared to be active means being in a stance, right? Being in an athletic position with your knees bent. And if you're in a stance, then you can react to, even when you're, you know, other side of the court, maybe there's a skip pass and you need to close out. Maybe next thing you know, you're one pass away or you're on the ball. Whatever it is, you need to be ready to react and you need to be in a stance. It kills me to see these critical defensive possessions or these critical games that players like to take breaks and come up out of their stance. We're only talking 30 to 35 seconds. Depends on, you know, what level you're playing at, right? But a shot clock is in general about 30 seconds long. You can stay in a stance for 30 seconds. If you can't, we can get you some conditioning work that helps you get in a stance for 30 seconds. Maybe that's something you need to work on. If you physically can't stay in a stance for 30 seconds, that is your first point of emphasis to work on. But that's the number one tip, is stay in a stance as a help defender. Okay, be active, be aware, so you're quick. The second tip is take up space as a help defender. And how you do that? Another, you know, not taking a break, have your arms active and up and be wide. I want you to think of being a wide defender, of taking up space, okay? What does that do? That really disrupts the offense from a visual standpoint, okay? Imagine if you were looking into I mean, we're going to use a little analogy here, but imagine you were looking into a forest and there was no limbs on any of the trees, right? They were just tall, skinny trees standing there, no limbs, no leaves, no bushes. You could kind of see right through the forest, right? But if there's limbs and bushes and all the foliage that goes into a forest, now it's visually impairing. I don't know if I want to go through that forest, right? Well, the same goes for the basketball court, especially today where there's so many offenses being run in a drive and kick fashion, whether it's read and react or whatever offense that you're up against. There's so many offenses that emphasize drives and getting into the paint, right? Whether that's to finish, whether that's to kick, whatever the case that might be. And visually as an offensive player, if you look and there's all these arms, everybody's wide, it's visually intimidating to make a drive, to make a pass, active hands that are up all the time. So again, second tip is take up space, be wide, have your arms up. Be a visual intimidation to the offense. That'll help your on-ball defenders so much. So we're not even talking about footwork or positioning today, right? Doesn't matter, just being in a stance and being wide is going to make all the difference. Doesn't matter what defense your coach is running. It could be a zone. It could be a variation of a zone. It could be a pack line defense. It could be a denial man-to-man. It doesn't matter. be wide, and be in a stance no matter what help position you find yourself in. So that's your second tip. Third tip, another really disruptive thing you can do for your defense to the offense, and that is being loud. Use your voice to relay information, okay? And this information you're giving is, one, going to help the defenders on your team, but it's also to intimidate or to disrupt the offensive players and what they want to do, okay? Imagine not only everybody's in a stance, everybody's wide, it's visually intimidating, but hearing, I've got your help here. I've got your help left. I've got your help right. Screen coming right, screen coming left. Get over the screen, get under the screen. I've got your help. All these things that you can say on defense, just hearing, you're an offensive player about to make a drive, and you see somebody, they're in a stance off the ball. They're in a stance. You see 3 players, 4 players in a stance off the ball, wide, and saying, we got your help right. Well, I don't think I want to go right. I know that's where I want to go, but that doesn't sound like such a great idea to me anymore. So you can be disruptive with your voice as well. And we're talking about help being in every position. It doesn't matter, 1 pass away, 2 passes away, back line. It doesn't matter where you are in the defense. I will say this, the farther away you are from the ball, the more active you should be with your voice. Why? Because you can see everything that's unfolding. You can really be a guide to help your defenders that are out in front of you. So if you find yourself away from the ball, you need to be active in a stance, being wide, and really be active with your voice, because you can really, give a great overview of what's happening on offense to your players. Your on-ball defender is engaged and on the ball. 1 pass away, they might be in denial or whatever the defense calls for. The fact of the matter is that you're the one that sees it all unfolding. And so then you can really be disruptive with your voice. You have the best overall vision of the court. So that's your 3 habits. If you're doing those, great. If you're not doing those, coaches notice. Coaches notice every aspect of the defense, and defense is so critically important to your coach. I can guarantee you, doesn't matter who your coach is, they are going to want you to be a great defender, not just on the ball, but off the ball. And this is going to help them implement any defensive scheme. So what's the 3 tips? Just to remind, be in a stance, take up space, be wide, and take up space with your voice and help direct the defense. So those are your 3 tips for today that you can implement. As always, I want to thank you for the likes and the shares. Share this video with, another player, your team, anybody that you think might need to hear it. And until next week, I want you to remember to play hard, play smart, and most importantly, play together. See you next week.